So may I request Mr. Ram Kumar Shankar, Mr. V.V. Surya Rao to kindly come on the dais. Mr. Vinod Premal will be joining from Mumbai, so he will be joining online. So because of some health reason, he could not come. So he will be there with us online. And may I request Mr. Joni Goyal, who is the Director Research and Analysis Chemical Market Analytics by OPIS, which is a Dow Jones company. And another speaker is Mr. Jigar Dehiwala from Gujarat Fluorochemicals Limited. So I'll briefly introduce our chair, co-chair and the expert speaker. Mr. Ram Kumar Shankar is the Managing Director of Indian Chemical Business of Chemplast Sanmar Limited and Chemplast Cuddalore Vinyls Limited, which is approximately $1.8 billion Sanmar Group. With the sales of around 5,500 crore, this is the multi-location, multi-product business focused on the chlorovinyl space. Mr. Ram Kumar Shankar is a finance professional with over 3 decades of experience in the functional and general management area, and also has played leadership role in the industry associations. Our co-chair of the session, Mr. V.V. Surya Rao, he is a graduate in mathematics and statistics from Vivekananda College, Madras, and a silver medalist in B.Tech Chemical Engineering from IIT Madras in 1965. He is presently working as the advisor for manufacturing leadership after establishing and heading the safety and operational risk function of Reliance Industry Limited for almost 2 years. His passion for excellence extends beyond the HSC, Six Sigma leadership and executive coaching and other next practices of manufacturing excellence focused towards climate change and sustainability. And Mr. Vinod Paremal, who is joining us online, he has been the regional president of Indian subcontinent since July 1st, 2020 of Avonic. Vinod is an industrial engineer and holds a degree in MBA from INSEAD, France. He has about 30 years of enriching experience, successfully leading marketing, strategic projects, sales, production terms across Germany, Singapore, UAE and UK. He has worked in multiple business lines within Avonic, high performance polymers, oil additives, care solution, comforts, insulation, and at the Avonic Corporate Center. We have Mr. Johnny Goyal, who is the Director Research and Analysis in Circular Plastic Services team in the Chemical Market Analytics by OPIS. He leads the team in technology and infrastructure related to plastic, circular economy and sustainability. His work area includes technical assessment, focusing circularity, decarbonization, biofuels, energy transition, clean tech, and sustainability. He holds a certificate of business excellence from the University of California, Berkeley. He earned his degree in Bachelor of Technology in Chemical Engineering from India, and he is also a lifetime member of Indian Institute of Chemical Engineers. So now I hand over the session to Mr. Ram Kumar. Thank you.
Thank you very much and good afternoon, everyone. I think this entire conclave is blessed by great timing as the nations of the world are meeting at Sharm el-Sheikh in Egypt to discuss exactly the very same issues that we are discussing here today. I'm not sure whether it is by design or by accident, but it is a very good coincidence. And I guess that we are all now agreed that climate change is no longer something that is under question. It is accepted as a fact. There is evidence all around us. There is rain where rain should not be there. There is drought where rain should be there. And especially in the last few years, we are seeing increasing evidence of climate change and how it can affect the world. There is therefore a great urgency and a sense of responsibility to the generations that follow. And if not in better condition, we should at least have that responsibility to hand over this world in as good a condition as we inherited it. In the COP26 last year at Glasgow in November 21, our Honorable Prime Minister made 5 commitments on behalf of all of us, behalf of India, the Panchamrit. India, the first commitment was that we would, as a country, increase the non-fossil energy capacity to 500 gigawatts by 2030. And to place that in perspective, currently we have a total power capacity of 400 gigawatts, of which renewable and hydro together account for 40%, which is 160 gigawatts, which is 32% of the commitment. So we have another 8 years to go to cover the ground to get to 500 gigawatts. The second commitment was that we would get to 50% of our energy, total energy consumption from renewable sources, again by 2030. The third was that we would ensure the drop in carbon intensity by 45% by 2030, and then cut the total carbon emissions by 1 billion metric tons by the same year. And finally, the big one, get to net zero by 2070. And earlier this year, following up on those commitments, India has released its NDC, the Nationally Determined Contribution, and we have reiterated our resolve on all of these 5. And the entire urgency around our getting to net zero is of acute importance to India, largely because of our unique topography. We have Himalayan glaciers, we have thousands of kilometers of coastlines, we have most of our natural resources in forest land, and therefore anything that is affected because of climate change is likely to affect all those people who are living along the coast or even those who are living at the foothills of the Himalayas. And another IMF study also estimates that if emissions continue to increase unabated like this till the end of the century, our per capita GDP for India would drop by 10%, and that, as you can imagine, could be catastrophic. It is therefore in our interest and the interests of India and the generations to follow to act fast. But that is easier said than done because we have multiple challenges in our journey towards net zero. Population growth to over 1.4 billion by 2023 is on the cards, and this was announced just about a couple of days back, and we expect to overtake China by next year. And half of our population is expected to be in cities by 2050. This rapid urbanization is going to bring huge challenges in urban planning and therefore our journey to net zero. And in fact, to put that in perspective, I believe that every year India will be adding an urban population the size of London. And the balance between development and environment is absolutely critical for a developing country like India, especially given the predominance of coal in our overall energy mix. Today it accounts for 50% of the total energy that we generate. And the funding that is required to get to net zero by 2070 has been estimated to be $10 trillion US. So obviously there is a huge funding requirement and that is going to be critical. And ultimately, will the problem shift is a question that is always hovering over the background. For instance, when you talk about electric vehicles, there has been some debate over whether the problem is shifting from the cities to the areas where lithium is being mined. So how holistic is the solution that we are looking at? And it's also important not just to focus on the challenges, but to focus on the opportunities. Obviously, the green tag will increase access to global markets, and there will be huge employment generation opportunities in the renewable space as well. And from the chemical industry point of view, the added challenge here is that it's not just, carbon is not just a part of the energy mix, but for a lot of petrochemical companies, it is part of the feedstock. So getting to carbon neutrality is not going to be that easy. There is thus a lot of need to transition from seeing emission reduction expenditure as a cost, which is what we all are used to doing, to seeing it as an investment for the not too distant future. With these few words to set the context, I would like to hand over the dais to our very high-powered, or should I say sustainably powered panel today. I'm not going to introduce them because they've just been introduced. So let me call upon the first speaker, Mr. Vinod Paramil, to make his presentation on net zero, enabler for sustainable change. Mr. Paramil?
Thank you very much. Thank you for that nice introduction.
I think you're on mute, Mr. Paramil.
Can you hear me?
Okay, we believe we can hear you very low, so maybe you should increase the volume at your end.
Okay. Can you hear me? Okay. Not sure what I can do to make it better. Can you hear me now?
Yes, loud and clear.
Okay. Sorry, I don't know what happened, but I just switched the audio system and seems to be better. Thank you very much, Mr. Ramkumar, for that nice introduction. Also, many thanks to all the venerable panelists on this panel, and also thank you to ICC for hosting such a conclave. Very, very valuable, and I believe since it's the first one, and as Mr. Ramkumar mentioned, very timely when it's coinciding with the COP summit. Yeah, without much ado, because I know that we are running a little bit short in time, I try to economize. Maybe I can present, unless you have the slides that I have sent already, then maybe I present. Yeah.
Please go ahead. Please go ahead. You can present and share the screen.
Oh, thank you. Thank you very much. So maybe just a very short introduction of Evonik, because we are not as famous a company as some of the others. We are a 15 billion euro turnover company, global chemical company. The name Evonik is new, but the company itself as a heritage is old, more than 150 years old. An amalgam of several of the old German chemical companies, and was put together in 2008 with the name Evonik. Some of the names might be known to you: Degussa, Rome, and such. So we have been in India for the last at least 4.5 decades. In various names because of the varied heritage. But we are headquartered here in Mumbai, but we have also 2 production sites in India. We would like to just give a short understanding about our interest in India and in the India market, and how that ties into net zero as an enabler for growth. And this is, feel free to differ, because this is our understanding of the announcements that the Indian government has made, and also the targets that they have set. And yeah, excuse me. Sorry that I cannot join in person, but I have a health condition, unfortunately, that does not allow me to join. What we understand is that India has announced a net zero target for 2070, because there are substantial growth needs for India, that reach peak carbon, as we understand, by 2050. And we have let's say a renewable target that has been announced by the government also, which is about 500 megawatts, is our understanding, with an emphasis on solar energy. Also, we know that India has committed to reduce emissions by roughly 45% by 2030 from the base of 2005. We also know about the government measures like Satat, which we also participate in, and in supplying enablers. We also understand that the recent green hydrogen mission, which will further enable, let's say, low carbon energy resources growth. We hope that the policy will be forwarded with starting with refineries in the next years, and thereafter the fertilizer and steel sectors that involve use of green hydrogen at higher levels over a period of time. So from our side in Evonik, we also have we've embarked on sustainable transformation. Right, sustainability is for us kind of integrated into the strategic levers. We have the next gen Evonik portfolio, and we have our innovation culture also geared towards sustainability. Um, so our commitment is to reduce both footprint, which means let's say saving resources, and also handprint, which means that we want to make sustainable products, right, for our customers, for our markets. Um, and so therefore sustainability is the backbone of Evonik's strategy. What excuse me. What we would like to do is also focus on sustainable, be an enabler of sustainable change, right? So our emphasis is on 4 areas, right? It's to fight climate change, it's to safeguard ecosystems, it's to drive circularity, and also to ensure health and well-being. Um, all our innovative solutions, right? Be it eco solutions, so green membranes for hydrogen, um, circular economy for recycling of materials such as PET, bio-based solutions of mobility such as lightweighting and lithium-ion battery solutions for EVs. These are all eco-focused. So if you see our commitment to the environment, we have reduced our scope 1 and 2 emissions by roughly 40% in 2021 when compared to 2008. We aim to be climate neutral by 2050. We have a financial commitment, right, to drive the next gen products, so that we would generate about 3 billion in turnover over the next 8 years for the next generation solutions. We also commit to use, let's say, our funding to provide additional capex, right, of about 700 million euros for footprint reduction. When you look at India's opportunities, when we circle back here, through sustainable policies, India presents growth opportunities in renewable energy, in mobility, and in green hydrogen value chains. Right. So we believe that this is a great market for us, right, and that we intend to focus our let's say efforts on this market and develop products, right, that are geared towards the India growth story. So we believe that we can be an enabler of sustainable solutions in India, and that's basically my presentation. Thank you for listening. Please let me know if you have any questions.
Thank you very much, Mr. Parimal, for a very concise and elaborate presentation. It's interesting to note that it's not just the commitment to net zero by 2050, but there's a lot of money behind it as well, backing that commitment. So that's very impressive. Thank you again. May I now request Mr. Jigar Deliwala to make his presentation on embracing net zero transition, risks and opportunities.
Good afternoon. Thank you, Chair, for allowing me to present. Thank you, my fellow panelist and presenter. On behalf of GFL, I'm presenting about the embracing net zero transition, risk and opportunity. It's a very unique topic, I can say, because we are continuously facing lots of climate change related issues, and net zero is the kind of solution right now we are thinking of, and that is why we should all together understand about what all are the risks we identify as achieving the net zero targets, and what all are the opportunities as a business could be created and as a nation could be created to safeguard the world. So let me introduce about the company. GFL is basically in the chemical sector, and we are specialty in the fluorochemical, polymers, and the chemical other chemicals. Company is integrated management system through the ISO certified. Established in 1989, the largest fluorochemical manufacturing in the India. As well, we also developed in 2007 other manufacturing facilities in Dahej. So company is continuously growing. The second unit is also in the development mode. And we are also coming into the EV market. We will be manufacturing the chemicals for the EV. We are all leading in the fluoropolymers in India and providing around 2,000 employee worldwide, because our presence is international also. 5 years CAGR growth is 20%, and since 30 years our presence in the chemical sector. These are our business, our specialty like fluoropolymers, specialty chemicals, refrigerants, and chemicals. Our product portfolio in that 4 verticals are also there. And these are some of the brands and applications in the different domains. Our global presence in terms of the manufacturing, we are having manufacturing facilities in Gujarat, but our network in warehousing facilities outside India, like USA, Germany, and we have sales and distribution in that internationally. Now I'm coming to today's my topic regarding the embracing net zero transition risk and opportunity. Already we know that right now also COP27 is going on. So previous years, like global energy review, if we see that global emission is somewhat reduced. So that means there is an opportunity to work upon the net zero transition. And as an industry and chemical sector, how we can contribute, we can provide our insights. We can see that global CO2 emission rebound by nearly 5% in 2021, approaching the 2018 and 19, because that 2 years gap was, COVID gap was there. So that comparison has been done on previous years. And then even that emissions are still going on. So there is a lot more works to be done. And fuel is the major natural resources being consumed by every sectors, like in aviation, in transportation, in manufacturing, etc. And energy is the need for every sector, so we cannot deny the use of the energy. So the emissions also that way is going to increase. So how to cater that emission reduction is a kind of prime agenda for all of us. And if we can see, like 2021 Global Energy Review, CO2 emission by all the regions, China is emitting more, but India is still do not have that positive marks, because we are growing economy, emerging economy, and that is why our emissions are not reduced. Though our targets are very stringent, very aggressive, our Prime Minister has already taken a target of 2070, but maybe in this COP27, the target may be more aggressive, and that all will be impact to all the sectors being play into the country, because the regulations become more stringent, and that will be a kind of risk which the chemical sector and other sectors has to be faced. Then why we have to go for the net zero? It's a big question in front of all of us, and I think we have together to search the answer for that, because net zero is a goal. We have set a goal up to 2070 for our country, but where is the pathway? We do not have the pathway how to achieve that net zero. So it's a big challenge. And we can see, like 1.5 degree temperature means we have to reduce the temperature level below 1.5 degree centigrade, which is very, very difficult for all of us. And you can see, like in this G7 and G20 also, in this and Glasgow last COP26, this has been also discussed very aggressively, and this COP27 will also be similar impact would be there. So I think that net zero is the prime objective for all of us to work upon. How to achieve this is like how to reduce the carbon intensity in our operations. We have to understand our operations requirement, our energy requirement, what all are the operations we are doing, and how to reduce that emission level, how to reduce our energy consumption, how to take the alternate energy resources for our operational requirement. That we need to understand. So, and for that, the important is that board level and the top management should be take a serious action on that, because then and then this will be achieved. And for that, decarbonization is one of the area where we have to work, like how the new operations we introduce for our expansion for our need or for any industrialization, how we can go for the decarbonization. That is one of the area where we have to work. Another is the climate risk and build the resilience infrastructure. So our infrastructure should be also carbon resilient, so such that we can achieve that net zero target. Sustainable capital, as Chair has already discussed, that lots of finance is required to achieve that net zero. And you can see, like in this previous scope, there were 130 trillion dollar economy is depend on that net zero. So that is the another important area, that how that finance could be managed for the technology transfer to cater the need for the net zero achievement. And another is reporting and the audit. Here I think it is very, very important, because lots of Indian corporates and even outside India also, we are reporting on our ESG as well as the sustainability performance. How accurate we are preparing our disclosure, that is very much important. Whether my emissions calculation are accurate, that is very important. It is comparable, because once I have disclosed this year, the next year it should be comparable. So that way, I think even analysts can also do their role very well, and then net zero target could be achieved. So these are the this is a kind of roadmap which we have illustratively think upon, is like how to reduce our emissions by technology transfer, by taking some energy efficiency enhancement initiatives within our operations requirement, how to change the behavior of our team who are actually working for operational requirement, and accordingly we can then reduce the emissions. First, try to reduce the emissions. Second is how to strengthen the supply chain, because supply chain is also one important partner for us, because they are part of our business. So avoiding the double counting, because my scope 3 emission could be a scope 1 emission for them. So avoiding that double counting in the net zero target setting, and also educate them to how to reduce their emissions levels, such that we can also participate accordingly. And decarbonization and product and services, like whatever the product and services we are providing should be on this renewable energy or alternate energy sources, such that our net zero target can be achieved. So like as I explained, like for the achieving the net zero, we should reduce first, and if we can't reduce, then we have to balance by afforestation or some other mechanism. And that net zero target or pathway could be designed from defining the baseline up to 2030 or 2050, whatever the target we can decide. So what all are the opportunities and risks we are considering? So risk associated with climate action failure are physical risks. So basically we found that climate change is happening. We see that, and that physical risk needs to be considered for our whatever action plans we are preparing. Climate crisis is also the biggest long-term threat facing humanity, that we are facing lots of cyclonic impact, which impact to the lots of economic damage and human loss. Risk linked to the transition to a net zero failure are getting more attention, so we have to take attention on all these things. And considering this global climate-related risk based on the severity, these are the 10 topmost risks has been identified. You must be aware about all these things, so I'll just keep that part. Net zero risk and opportunity is like a stabilization and accounting system to measure the progress to achieve that goal is very, very important. So our goal should be realistic, that and whatever the pathway we decide to achieve the net zero should also be smart. And that is why net zero offers the abatement of the climate risk, because it is also directly linked to our supply chain, because supply chain is also now asking like, what is your net zero program? So that way, like, we are also participating in that program. So it is kind of creating it is a risk for us if we are not able to prepare the net zero program. But it is also an opportunity for us. If we have net zero program, our supply chain be also strengthened. So these are some of the limitations, and I'll just go through some element of the better pathway also. So in these limitations, like we should avoiding the double counting. The delay impact is like once we calculate our emissions, but then we are not disclosing at appropriate platform, then that impact assessment should not be considered by the even external world or the stakeholders. So that is where we need to be strengthen our capabilities. Leakages, like I'm just not covering all, but few I'm just taking. Leakages is like whenever we calculate our GHG, our focus is only on CO2, but there are 6 GHG we have to consider, because whenever we disclose it's in terms of the ton CO2 equivalent. Moral hazard is also like whatever we accountable for GHG emission reduction targets. So what all are the initiatives we are taking should be also realistic. And for that, the better pathway is like take a multi-dimensional view of the sustainability, as we are lots of organizations, many organizations, every organization are working on their sustainability journey. So net zero is also one of the journey which we are taking along with our sustainability journey, and we have to develop the transition path accordingly. GFL is already initiated all these things, and we are also in line of creating that net zero pathway for our own operational requirements. And for that, we have since last 3 years, our sustainability disclosures are also in the public domain. It's available on our website also. We have other certifications like we have IMIS, anti-bribery and anti-corruption, social responsibility management system, sustainable procurement system, ISO 27,000, 37,000, 26,000 also, and then 20,400. So these are the certifications. So these are some of the initiatives we have as an organization take up from our side to start our journey towards sustainable development as well as the net zero pathway. And we also follow the SDGs, and we are rated by EcoVadis and other rating agencies. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Deliwala. It's really an eye-opener that the carbon dioxide in the atmosphere is up 50% from the beginning of the Industrial Revolution. But at least some solace in the fact that there is financial support on the way with $130 trillion of funds being managed. Hopefully it will all be put to good use. Thank you again for a very good presentation, and may I now request Mr. Johnny Goyal to make his presentation on plastic circularity and net zero.
Thank you, sir. Respected Chairman, sir, my colleagues on the dais, and all the dignitaries present over here. I'm glad to be here, and thank you, ICC, for giving this opportunity to present some conclusions from our study, which is the plastic circularity. This is actually the last slide, so. So, okay, thanks. So, my topic here today is plastic circularity and the net zero. So, as we know, in today's scenario, this plastic waste volume is a huge problem across the globe, and every industry is trying very hard to, take this plastic volume, how to treat it. And now, when everybody is talking about sustainability and the net zero emissions, how this particular industry will take shape in the coming decades, because this is not a simple problem. This is a huge problem, and especially US and Europe are leading in this plastic circularity, and many aggressive push have been shown in different industry. So before I go to my So before I just go to the conclusions, let me share something about my company. So we are actually the IHS market-based chemicals. So IHS market, probably you all know, we are the authoritative voice of industry. We are the market intelligence. We provide the market intelligence in every sector, starting from base chemicals, in the renewable plastics and everything. So now this year back, the small portion, which is our IHS market-based chemical, was acquired by Dow Jones, moving forward as a part of strategic merger between S&P Global and Platts and IHS Market. So now our base chemical division is being known as Chemical Market Analytics. And now this News Corp and Dow Jones have completed the acquisition of this our group. And moving forward, Dow Jones will play a leading role in new energy, chemical and renewable verticals. Just to give you a corporate of our parent company, so we are in the Dow Jones, which is famous for our media brands like Wall Street Journals, Barron's, and MarketWatch. And we are getting fit into Dow Jones, professional solutions into Factivia and Newswire, and we will be operated by OPIS, Oil, Petrochemical, and Information Services, and where the Chemical Market Analytics we are in it. So the agenda of today's presentation is just to touch briefly on how the plastic circularity look about and how the transformation from linear to circoplastic will take shape, and some disruptive truths from the plastic circularity study that our team has performed. So if we talk about the plastic circularity, obviously the definition starts from the most preferred routes, or obviously to avoid the waste. Reduce, reuse, these are the most competitive solutions in today's scenario whenever we talk about net zero and sustainability. Under the plastic circularity, the next preferable routes will be obviously mechanical recycling and the chemical recycling of plastics, and the technology will play an important role. And down the bottom, obviously the least preferred, where we all want to avoid all sort of this waste, contamination, pollution in terms of energy recovery or landfill. So when we talk about how the transformation of linear to circular models, so traditional route we all know, right? From the left-hand side, the fossil feedstock, we produce the polymers, and then the end plastic waste, used and just, thrown out. But the circular approach demands a comprehensive integration between the, linear chain. That means whatever the waste plastic we have, either we, integrate with respect to its, monomers and to the feedstock side, just to avoid being leakage to the environment, because that is something we really don't want to see as far as this net zero emission is concerned. So what we have done, obviously when we talk about plastic circularity by 2050, it's not an easy route, right? And nobody knows how the overall thing will take shape. So we have produced 3 scenarios. What is that? First scenario is the base case scenarios. That means whatever the pace of plastic circularity is right now today, it will remain the same by 2050. Then how the things will look like, right? The second is the green case. The green case means a little bit more aggressive route, where there is a lot of pressure from the government and the stakeholders to have a plastic circularity and to meet the recycled content targets, but still this is not covering the net zero. And the final case is the circular plastic case, which is actually the net zero case, where we want to see a zero landfill and zero emissions. So this is a backcast case. So what we have done is what need to be done to achieve this case. So we have built, integrated models in that regard. So there are 8 primary service categories in our circular plastic services, starting from regulations, policy, ESG, and then the demand assessments. We do rigorously, exploring all these from the different parts of the globe, what is happening in this area. Then we have a recycling database of mechanical and chemical recycling, giving you a detailed information who is doing what in this sector and what is their capabilities. And under the technology and the licensing part, we are discovering what exactly these different chemical recycling are playing in the market and what is their potential in terms of answering the plastic circularity. We are actually doing, a complete modeling. For example, when we talk about the plastic waste ending into municipality, solid waste streams, then from that municipality solid waste, what is the net probability of this plastic waste collecting and then going towards mechanical recycling and going towards meeting the demand of as a PCR to decrease the net virgin plastic demand, and how then chemical recycling will also play an important role in this sector by 2050. We are also tracking the economics of these chemical and mechanical recycling technologies along with the virgin production to give you a side-by-side comparison that how this sector will evolve and what are those particular levers that need attention, and also in terms of carbon emission, how the overall emission look like. Let's quickly come to the disruptive truth. The disruptive truth number one obviously is the quantity of plastic waste will increase by 70% over the next 30 years. Because of GDP and population, we all know municipality solid waste is going to be increased and net consumption of plastic going to be increased. So the net PCR demand associated with recycling content demand from the various stakeholders, it is going to be increased. And the most incremental growth will be disconnected from today's plastic production infrastructure. So you can see that most of this growth is actually disconnected, and mainland China and rest of the world are playing an important part in this category. The second part that disruptive truth is, right now if you talk about the circularity, there is totally disconnect between the technology and the path we are moving forward. The pace of recycling is not there. So this particular graph on your right, this blue bar showing the pace of recycling today. That means we are still only at around 12 to 15% of overall recycling, if you could consider mechanical, chemical, and another meal. And where the rest is going? Rest is going to landfill, incineration, and energy recovery, which obviously for net zero we all want to avoid. So we really need to do something on that. The third disruptive truth, obviously the demand of recycled plastics will exceed the supply. Obviously, as you know, every industry is struggling about where is the feedstock. I want PCR for my company to meet the recycled content. I am not getting that. So the demand of this PCR is so high, and that's why the premium associated with this is also high in the market. So you can see this virgin HDPE price is still lower, but the natural PCR, because of its high demand, is just booming like anything. So the next disruptive truth, we will see that achieving a circular economy for plastic is not always aligned to net zero goals. Why? Let's understand this. When we talk about different technologies associated with plastic recycling, every technology has its plus and minus. As far as mechanical recycling is concerned, it has its own advantages of lesser CO2 emissions. Obviously, because of lesser energy consumption, it's not so dynamic, but it has its own limitation, right? We cannot recycle plastic continuously, say 5 to 6 times. At some point, it obviously need to be recycled back to the feedstock by some another technology, which is chemical recycling technologies like pyrolysis, gasification, and depolymerization. So under this, since the energy consumption is very high, the scope 1 and scope 2 emissions associated with these are high. So that's why we see that in the coming years, that these technologies will still struggle as far as this overall carbon emissions are concerned. But implementation of greener energy, greener electricity will obviously, result in reducing the emission associated with it. Last but not least, the disruptive truth is peak use of fossil-based feedstock will not occur without an accelerated and coordinated global effort. What does that mean? So whenever we talk about that, yes, we want to use this overall plastic waste back into the chain to reduce the virgin plastic demand. So our study shows that the net contribution of this mechanical recycling, chemical recycling processes is still remain at around of say 30 to 35% by 2050, even if we push the very aggressive case. So the net virgin fossil feedstock will remain in demand. That there is no questions about it. But the chemical and mechanical recycling will obviously play an important role to reduce the overall plastic waste volume, which is very, very important. So these are the two different categories. One side we have plastic waste volume. On another side we have net plastic demand, and that need to be reduced associated with this. So this is my last slide where we need to understand that how the different set of stakeholders together need to address this issue. Whether it is financial institutions, NGOs, government, industry, every stakeholder need to come together to solve the issue of plastic waste and to take this from linear to the circular economy. And until that, rigorous integration happen within the different stakeholders, it will be really, really difficult to answer the net zero that we are all expecting from plastic circular industry. So with that, I end my presentation, and my team would like to invite all of you in the World Chemical Forum, which is going to take place in next year, September in Houston, to discuss more such issues. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Goyal. And this transition from a linear to a circular economy has always been seen as one of the key steps towards net zero. But your disruptive truths kind of let us know that all is not what it seems. So I'm sure that better minds than ours possibly will discuss this and find a solution. So to give his closing remarks, may I invite the co-chair for this session, Mr. Surya Rao.
Mesa Healthcare. Am I in Sharm el-Sheikh? No, that means good evening in Arabic, where I have been 65 years back in the same country called Egypt. Now, let me gracefully acknowledge my gratitude to the organizers for inviting me on behalf of Reliance Industries Limited, which is one of the largest refineries in the world, emitting the maximum amount of carbon dioxide, so we are also responsible. We have to be. I still take an anticipatory bail from the organizers, and then permit me to say this cannot be a conclave. A conclave is a place where a group of cardinals conduct their business in a confidential manner. As far as sustainability is concerned, it is open to everyone. It need not be conclave. So I request you to kindly share all the presentations to all the delegates so that we can go back and transmit all around. I hope I have your permission. Now, they spoke about risks and opportunities. In my life, I have learned risk and development are always in conflict, right? Development can be also positive or can also lead to degradation. So, and hence, we have got what is called the climate change crisis that is impending on us. Now, how serious is it? There is only one C in COVID, but there are 3 C's in climate change crisis. Now, look at COVID. COVID has not spared anybody. It is universal. It affected the people in New York as much as it affected in New Delhi. It did not know the color, caste, creed, gender. The same thing is going to be geometrically multiplied in the event of a climate crisis. You are already experiencing it. Now, why is it happening? We should at least know. The reason why it is happening is we not only have inheritance, but we are also having exheritance. Now, this is my word. I would like to explain a little bit. The generations that are born between 1800 to 2100 will be seen in the humanity as the worst generations, because you not only inherit something from your parents, but you are also taking away the water, the energy, the air, all that is required by your children, your grandchildren, and great-grandchildren. This is unsustainable. You cannot be taking the things from your parents and also from your children. We can't be what is called pelican daughters, sucking the blood of our own children. Now that is not sustainable. Now, how do we solve it? Dhanam moolam idam jagat, as you have mentioned, sir. In our Lalita Sahasranamam, there are 3 things that are mentioned. It is called, you need Ichha Shakti. You need a desire to be sustainable. I think all of us have it. But that must be multiplied by Jnana Shakti, the knowledge. There are so many people who have been sharing knowledge. I'm extremely grateful for being able to be one of the recipients of the knowledge, whether it is Lanza or whether it is Gujarat Fluoro or XYZ. I've learned a lot. A conclave like this is a great opportunity for us to learn and go back and to act. So the third one, I thought, was only Kriya Shakti, that is will. The ability to execute what we learn. But I learned from Mr. Ramkumar ji, before, it is not there in the Lalita Sahasranamam, but before Kriya Shakti, he says you need Shriya Shakti, you need money. Right? You need $16 trillion. It's absolutely true. Now, what is the solution? There is one word, Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam. Those who have polluted from 1700 till 2100 must follow the principle of we have to clean up what we have done. We have to remove all the carbon dioxide we have put in. We have to remove it. All the 190 nations must say how much they have put and how much they must clean up. Carbon neutrality is not adequate. We have to go to carbon negative. We must take carbon dioxide from the atmosphere and bring it back. I know the goal. I have the dream. The dream is from 416.7 parts per million today of carbon dioxide, I want all of us to come back to 288, which was the previous number. It is not maintaining. 1.5 has no sense as far as I am concerned. 2.0 has no meaning. 2.4 and 2.6 don't mean anything to me. What I want is, I want minus 1.2, which we are today. That should be the ambition. That should be the goal. Now it requires, I learned from my original chairman, Mr. Dhirubhai Ambani, schedule, that means the time, is equivalent to scope divided by resources. Simple formula. He was not educated beyond 4th standard, but he is a better professor than anybody from Harvard. So, scope, scope is so many gigatons of carbon dioxide to be removed. Denominator is what Ramkumarji said. It is not the money that is sanctioned, but the money that is spent that will get the result. That's very important. It is execution, spending away of the money is only when that will give results. We from Reliance have a commitment given by our chairman. We want to be net carbon neutral by 2035. We are not talking about 2050, we are not talking about 2070. Whether we'll achieve or not, time has to tell us. My vision for Reliance is very clear. Today we are getting 70 million tons of crude from outside. That is our feedstock. In future, my feedstock will be, number one, crude will continue, maybe 25%. 25% will come from recycled waste, plastic waste. 25% will come from carbon dioxide. As Professor from Lanza has explained, carbon dioxide will be the feed for future fuels. There will be liquid fuel, there will be diesel, there will be kerosene, there will be naphtha, there will be aviation turbine fuel. It is called SAF. They are already producing it from carbon dioxide. What we need is solar energy. I have got, and you need solar, renewable energy, you need hydrogen, you need carbon dioxide, you need liquid biofuels, and also recycled plastic waste. We will still deliver what is needed for the rest of the world. Now, that is called circular economy. You take CO2, add hydrogen, make methanol, make ethylene, make polyethylene, make ATF, use it, consume it, make CO2, put it into the plants or take it as bio-waste and then bring it back again. That will be, our refinery will become a circular refinery. It will still be there. That's my dream. Now, only a few more words which I feel is, now, there are an excellent document published by MOEFCC and Ministry of Chemicals and Fertilizers on November 14th. That is India's long-term low-carbon development strategy. It's a fantastic document. I kindly appeal to you to digest it, and that is where the country is going to be led. Very well written. Of course, as somebody said, the COP27 also will give you the other part of the story. These are better inputs than that. I would like to come to two last words, or last sentences. We have to move from abundance to thrift. As somebody said, sustainability consists of 40% with renewable power, 40% with energy conservation, and 20% with CCUS. There are three dimensions. Now, energy conservation, I learned something from my father. I want to share that. 1/10 of what you eat fills you, 9/10 kills you. You don't have to eat so much, right? If you reduce the consumption, obviously the energy consumption per GDP will go up. We have a lot of waste. We waste water, we waste electricity, energy. In my own company, one person is working beyond 7 o'clock and the whole hall is Diwali every day, which is ridiculous. You can't be wasting energy, you can't be wasting water, and in India, I presume, we waste maximum food also. So unless there is a war on waste and reduction in consumption without sacrificing your needs, unless the 9/10 of greed is substituted by 1/10 of the need, you cannot achieve it. So it is not only from the generation point that you should look at it, but we should go back to the consumption point. My last word is this. One of my craziest ideas, I want you to evaluate, reflect, and see if it works. One sun, one planet, why not one network? If we have a connectivity with China and East, I don't have to have batteries for storage, which are again dependent on non-renewable resources. China can supply me from 3 a.m. to 7 a.m. power, and I can return to them when they are sleeping in the evening. I can also connect myself to Middle East, and I can give them power before they get up, and they can give me the power. If you have both north, south, east, west, if you have a world network, like we have Wi-Fi and other things now, and already research is going on. In Australia, they're trying to transmit power without cables. If you have a global network, take the energy when the sun is there. If it is in Africa, you take in Africa. If it is in America, you take in America. And network, then you don't need storage. If you don't need storage, you don't need lithium, you don't need cobalt, you don't need all those things. Thank you very much for giving me an opportunity, and may God bless you.
Now, I'll request the chair to hand over the mementos as a token of our appreciation to our expert speaker. And to hand over the kit, I would request our DG, Mr. Soti Selvam, to hand over the kit to the chair, Mr. Ramkumar Shankar. Thank you, sir. And it was wonderful to hear all of you.